The ultimate guide to handling wholesale objections. Guys, it's Zach Ginn. In today's video, I'm going to go over the 6 most common objections you'll get on your wholesale deals. I'm going to tell you what the underlying issue is, and most importantly, I'm going to give you the cure so you can easily overcome your objections. But before I get into it, do me this favor. Make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share this video with someone who wants to learn the truth about wholesaling. That's right, guys. Today, we are going to go over the most common objections. Are there a few outliers? Yes. But for the most part, if you can learn to classify an objection to your wholesale deal, you can easily learn how to respond to them with confidence so you can become a better closer, become a better negotiator, and ultimately become a better wholesaler. So let's get into it. Now, number 1 is probably the most common one that I have to deal with all the time. And a lot of people say, price is objection. Listen, I don't believe price is an objection. I believe a lot of times you guys are just dealing with the wrong type of sellers, because if it's just price alone, you're never going to win in wholesaling. You actually have to gain the seller's trust. You have to build rapport with them, find commonality, and actually solve their problem. So if you understand that, I'm going to give you a classification and go a little bit deeper than just the price issue. It is, what's your price, Rick? What's your price? More than half the people I deal with want me to cut to the chase and get straight to the price. And I'm here to tell you, if you do that, it is bait. It's being set out for you and you are going to get caught. What do I mean by that? Number 1, you're never going to win on price. So if you start out on price, your basic underlying issue here is control. Now, I don't want to control people, but I do want to control the outcome of the conversation. That's the objective for any human being that has a conversation with someone else, to get to an end conclusion that results in a positive outcome. Now, how we do that is up to debate. Everybody's got different ways. I'm just going to share with you mine. When someone says, Rick, just give me the price right now. Once again, they're asking for control. They don't want a relationship with you and they just want to cut to the chase. Let's be honest. Most of us want that in a way, but most of the time we do ourselves a massive disservice by not understanding and evaluating what the problem is. How on earth are you going to be able to make an offer if you don't even know the facts of what's going on with the property? Remember, you have to get behind the symptoms of the real estate. If a house is in foreclosure, find out what the real reason why it's in foreclosure. Somebody lose a job? Do we have a loss of life? Do we just have a loss of income? Can we not handle the property? Nobody chooses to get a bank loan, not pay it, and then have the bank take it back and humiliate them in public. Everybody hates that. So once again, the underlying issue is control. So how do I take this conversation and be able to move forward without losing face and without giving up all my control? It's simple. Number 1, acknowledge it. Say, John, I get it. You want me to give you a price, but you got to understand, for me to give you the best offer I possibly can, I'm going to have to learn a little bit more about the house. Do you mind if I ask you a few more questions so I can give you the best offer, the best solution for your current situation? Now, most of the time they go, yeah, that kind of makes sense. You can do it the other way is, listen, John, if you ever bought a car without test driving it, I want to buy your house, but I need to know more information about it. You mind if I ask you a few questions? See, by reframing it and asking for permission, we can easily move forward. And guys, it's that simple. If you give in and just give them the price off the bat, you are no different than a realtor or just a regular cash buyer. If you want to be a real wholesaler, you're going to have to connect with them. You're going to have to listen to them, because the data is how you evaluate in solving the seller's problems. Because in the end, if you can't gain their trust and you can't get the data to solve their problem, you aren't getting a wholesale deal. So don't be an order taker at McDonald's like a 1, 2, or 3. If you shoot a price off the bat, they're just going to run you over and they're going to go to the next wholesaler, the next would-be realtor, and so on. So acknowledge the control, use the techniques I just taught you. You can easily overcome this objection. Number 2 is third-party endorsement. And what do I mean by that? It's real simple. It's kind of like the maybe, and I call like the friend zone, so we can batch these all up. When someone goes, I got to think about your offer because I got to run it by so-and-so. It could be anyone. It could be a friend, a neighbor, a realtor, or whatever. And the problem is you set yourself up for failure in the beginning of this. The reality is most humans, if they can stall, they will stall. And the underlying issue is you didn't determine who the decision maker was on the property. Now, if you ask that up front before you even get into even qualifying a seller, they will always volunteer that information. I'm in control. My wife's in control. My brother and me make the decision on it. It's simple as that. And what I like to do with this is, if you learn how to do a conditional agreement, conditioning agreement, whatever you want to call it, this is just a statement you make up front after you qualify someone to make sure you have the right person in front of you. Let them know what you're there for, give them an expectation of how long it's going to take, and let them know at the end, either way, you're going to make a decision at the end. It's either yes yes, I love Rick, or no, you're not going to do it. And I just want to reconfirm you're the decision maker. See, by framing a conversation, you can avoid the typical, I'm going to stall. Most people are scared to make a decision because selling a house is one of their biggest decisions in their life. So remember, our job is to help the seller get out of their own way. If you give them just a little wiggle room to stall, they will stall and procrastinate you forever. In the beginning, you're going to learn the hard way if you don't do the conditioning agreement by just doing that upfront statement. If you want to learn how to do that, go over to freewholesaling.com. By confirming that we have the decision maker and we're going to make a decision today, and I'm going to help you out no matter what happens, it takes a lot of pressure off the seller and they are more prone to make a decision. They won't make it every time, but if there's an obstacle in the road, you can easily identify it. The worst thing in the world is sitting in the stall, the friend zone I call, because you don't know how to tackle that objection because you don't even know what you're dealing with. You're better off setting up that agreement up front, and that way when it comes push to shove, they're more inclined to make a yes or no decision. Now, number 3 is where we go deep into I call the friend zone. Let me think about it. I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of the worst predicaments you can be in. And this, in my opinion, in my experience, 23 years of wholesaling, is the most common objection you will get from somebody looking to sell you a wholesale deal. Now, don't panic. If you've done the preconditioning statement, you have the decision maker in front of you, and you have prod them to make a yes or no decision, and you'll help them out either way. Now we've got to break this down and find out what is the truth. So I teach you about how to solve the symptom behind the real estate. If it's vacant, find out why it's vacant. See, because vacant doesn't really tell me anything. I want to get the human story of why a property's in foreclosure, why the taxes are behind, why it's on the code violation list. What happened with the probate? Like, how can we help you out with it? So if we don't ask more questions, we can't get answers. But the problem is, I go, let me think about it. How do I deal with this? You've got to understand what the underlying issue is when someone says, I think about it, other than we all know it's some sort of stalling or procrastination technique. In fact, a majority of society would rather not make a decision because they feel like they won't make a mistake, as opposed to making a yes or no decision. Your job as a wholesaler is to guide them. I don't have magic words to tell you to get them to say yes or no. It doesn't work that way. Remember, we're focusing on people who need to sell. So if I'm prefacing this by determining if they need to sell or want to sell, I now have to identify, once they give me a think about it stall statement, I have to go back and recertify their motivation, because if they're not motivated, no matter what I say, it's not going to work. So I'm going to go back and re-qualify this person. So the underlying issues when someone says, I want to think about it, give me like a week or two, is number 1, has their motivation changed? I don't know. Go back through a simple MCTP and see where you're at with it. Number 2, they don't have confidence in you. And that's the painful one. And that's where a lot of you guys wind up into it. And it's quite common. I'm going to be honest with you. I had this problem when I first started out wholesaling. So let's talk about the cure to fix this common objection number 3. Let me think about it, Rick. I'm going to take this straight from my free playbook at freewholesaling.com. Number 1, you have to find a way to connect with them. Remember, people only do business with people they trust. It doesn't matter if you're in a retail store, if you're in someone's home, or they're in your office. The bottom line is, if they don't like you and they don't trust you, it doesn't matter what the price of the offer is. They don't want to work with people they don't trust. And if they don't have confidence in you and you're not working on building it, no matter what you offer in the house, it's not going to work. So how do I fix that? Start building rapport. Find commonality. Find a connection, especially if they're in your home. If they're on the phone, you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper and find a common interest. Why? Because people do business with people they trust. If they trust you, they're more willing to open up to you and tell you what the real underlying problem is. See, you have a lack of trust. And part of this is you did not preface and frame the conversation in the beginning saying, I have the decision maker. I'm going to prod you to a yes or no decision. And either way, I'm going to help you out, even if you don't want to do business with me. That takes the expectation level, go, oh my God, cool. He's going to spend 40 minutes with me. He's going to hear me out. He's going to listen to my problem, and he's going to give me his honest feedback and guide me and give me options that will best suit me to help get me out of this mess. How do I do that? I've got to build trust. How do I do it? I just do it by building rapport. I find commonality. I do a transition statement, and then I go in for my low offer and I rebuild from there. I establish trust by connecting with them. I show them I'm highly confident in what I'm doing. And if you trust me with this information, I will do everything in my power to try to fix your problem. And guys, most of the time when they put you in this friend zone, let me think about it, either the motivation wasn't there and it's not your fault to begin with and you've wasted the time, so just recertify the motivation. Or number 2, they're just not confident in you because you're not delivering it. How do you do it? You have to just practice and work on it. And the more repetitions you get in wholesaling, the more confident you become. The faster you respond to these 6 objections I'm getting you, the more confident you're going to be as a wholesaler. So if you get in the think about it zone, recertify motivation, rebuild that trust, and build confidence in your ability to help the seller. And it's simple as this, guy. Listen carefully to the problem, repeat back facts, and offer them a solution. You have to create win-wins. It's no different than any other business, especially in wholesaling. Number 4, I need to have my lawyer review this agreement. Quite a common objection. And this is where a lot of wholesalers stall. Now, when I first started out, I was taught to just avoid the lawyer at all costs. And I'm here to tell you it's the wrong method. In fact, you should embrace it because it ain't going to go away. And if you say, you don't need to run it by a lawyer, you're going to seem shady and shifty, and you are going to break your seller's trust. And once you break that trust, it doesn't matter what your offer is, you're dead in the water on that wholesale deal. So what's the underlying issue here? It could be trust because they don't trust your ability with the contract, which is perfectly normal. Or maybe your rapport is at a very low level and you really haven't earned it yet, and you went in way too early for the kill and they're in protection mode. Or honestly, it can just be one of their stall tactics to procrastinate and not make a decision. Your job is to piece all the information and to edge your client forward and guide them. Think about this. You're at a Yellowstone National Park. There's bears on this side. There's buffaloes on this side. You've got to keep your client on that paved road to keep them safe. There's no magic words to have somebody sell you a property when it comes to wholesaling. Either you gain their trust and you fix their problem and you guide them and you win. If you think you're going to be some sort of slick car salesman, that only works on people who want to sell their house. And honestly, if you want to be a realtor, probably get off this video because I can't help you out. If they need to sell your house, you need to earn their trust. You need to listen to them very carefully and keep them on the guided path to give them options that best suits them and their family to solve their problem. Once again, win-win situation. So how do I cure this objection? It's real quick, fast responses. Confidence kills on this one. If you are confident, you will 9 times out of 10 overkill this lawyer objection. Great, who's your lawyer? Can I get their information? I'd be happy to send the information over. They're fully expecting you just to go, I don't want to do a lawyer. Embrace the lawyer objection. It's real simple. The second part of the solution to this is use a state-approved contract when it comes to a lawyer. Why? Because that's what they're taught in law school. That's what they want to do. If you don't know how to get it, go over to your title company or your attorney and get a state-approved contract. It accomplishes the same thing as the Flip with Rick wholesale contract. It puts in a bunch of legal jargon, and that's the best way to get past the lawyer. The next one is really cool. I call it price anchoring, and it goes simple like this. Go back to your client and go, I'm more than happy to share this lawyer. I think you're making a great decision, but can we just reinforce the price and the terms? They go, yeah, okay. So I'm buying your house for $240,000. Are you okay with that price? Absolutely, Rick, thumbs up. Okay, you're okay with a $500 deposit? Yeah, that's fine. I understand you got to do that to open escrow and get everything started and pull title. Awesome. And you understand it's a cash transaction and we're going to close it in 30 days. Yeah, I'm fine. So we're fine with that. So that the $240, the $500 deposit and the cash to close in 30 days. We're solid on that. That's fine. So we don't really need to run that by the lawyer, but I'll give them a copy of the contract. They're just going to review the legal jargon to make sure that I am doing exactly what I say. Absolutely. You see, by doing that price anchoring, when it goes to the lawyer, here's what they're 9 times out of 10 they're going to say. What? I don't like this price. Maybe we should get an appraisal or list it with a realtor. No. I talked to Mr. Ginn. He said that price is fine. I'm fine with it. He's fine with it. I'm good with it. 30 days cash close. Are you crazy? Like that's with a $500 deposit? No. He's doing that to open escrow. I'm fine with it. Can you just review the terms of the contract to make sure the legal jargon is? And more than half the time, they'll change a few, sentences or add some additional things. That's fine. Make sure you keep your contract assignable and make sure that doesn't get changed. And here's a little secret. In your state-approved contracts, assignability is usually a checked box. So it's actually less conspicuous by putting it on these contracts. Most of the time, the lawyers don't even review it because they want to wait weeks on end. By you complying, you giving them solutions, and you giving them confidence, it's the easiest way to overcome the lawyer objection. Make sure you do the price anchoring. Number 5, Rick, I got a higher offer than yours. Okay, well, let's think about this for a second. Why didn't they take it? What is the underlying issue is? The question is that offer real? Guys, we can talk about the 5,000 Bitcoins I almost bought. It never came to real because I never pushed the send button. We can talk about the $500,000 property that's now worth $10 million. I was going to buy it. I wrote a contract, but I never followed through on it. Meaning most of these offers they tell you it is a posturing thing. The reality, if they got that great offer, here's my question to them. It's simple as this, and it's a quick response. Why don't you just go ahead and take it? Real simple and light like that. And listen to the response and the reaction, the counter argument you're going to give that to you. Hopefully will give you more insight on their motivation and what's going on with the property. The reality is, if that was a real offer, you wouldn't be talking to them. Most of the time, the highest offer is not the best offer, especially when it comes to wholesaling. We're seeking out properties that need to be sold that have significant issues. Most conventional bank loans can't help that deal get done, and that's where you and me as the wholesaler comes in. So of course, you're always going to get arguments about higher offers, but most of them come from realtors that never come to fruition, would never pass underwriting, would never get financing, and never pass a home inspection. This one's simple to cure, guys. This is the easiest. If you have a quality CRM that you can pull leads from, meaning you can pull any marketing list, you can skip trace, you can do AI automation, everything like X leads, go look at the root of where that lead came from. Did you get it from cold calling, direct mail, whatever it is, and look in your notes and see what was the root of the issue of why the seller was calling you. If you go back to the root of the issue of why the seller called you and bring them back home to why we are talking in the first place. Kathy, you said you want to get this property sold in 30 days. You don't want to deal with inspections. You want to sell it as is, and you want to move on your life, and you want to move to Arizona to be with your dad. Find out if anything's changed, reinforce what their true intentions are, and then go back and reclose them again. It's that simple. A higher offer, there's a reason it's out there. It's usually not real, and it usually doesn't stick. And there's a reason they're talking to you. And the best way is just tell them to take the offer. I know that sounds crazy, but they won't. If they were going to, they would have already taken it. Reinforce why and how you got in contact with that seller and help them accomplish their goals and objectives they set out when they initially called you. Sometimes we have to bring them back in and remind them why we're doing business together and the ultimate value a wholesaler provides, which is liquidity. I'm basically selling certainty so they can move on with their life, so they know the outcome. Wholesalers have a tremendous value. Don't ever undermine it. And then number 6 is, I'm thinking about listing it. It's actually one of my favorite ones. Actually, it's a really easy objection to overcome, and it's simple. Number 1, I'm just going to make sure I had the right motivation, and the underlying issue is make sure they're still motivated and they have uncertainty, like what's the outcome going to be? Can I do better? Can I do worse? And usually this comes down to some cost factors, because guys, the truth of the matter, a realtor can list a property for whatever they want. There's no limits. You can list it for $100 billion. Doesn't mean that's what it's going to sell for. So it's real simple. The underlying issue is uncertainty. Can I get more? Can I get less? Or like, I'm uncertain about everything. Because if you're talking to a realtor and a wholesaler, you're usually confused. It should be black and white. If the house has issues, it usually needs services that most realtors cannot provide or a local bank can't provide. That's where the wholesaler comes in. So once again, like I told you earlier, I'm going to go back and check my notes and remind myself why the seller called me in the first place. They go, Rick, I don't have any more money to put into it. I can't afford long drawn out contracts that fall through. I can't afford inspections. And honestly, the realtor's percentage and all the closing fees, you offered me a cash offer with no closing costs. I'm like, okay, well, why are we talking about a realtor? I just go back to him. I go, so let me get this straight, Kathy. You want to list it for a retail price, knowing it needs $50,000 of work, and buyers are brutal. And then we're going to pay the realtor 6% on top of it. Plus, they're going to want to negotiate another probably 5 to 10% because this thing's never going to pass an inspection. And then you get to wait 20 to 25 days to find out if the appraisal contingency and the underwriting for the bank's going to work. But remember, you told me you want to get rid of this property in 30 days. Kathy, if you want to get this done in 30 days, I will buy your property as is. You'll know the exact outcome. I'm giving her what? Certainty. And I'm going to ease your anxiety, and you can move forward and you can reset your life. You can buy your new property and you can control everything. If that's what you want to accomplish, I want to help you do that. If it's changed and you want to put the $50,000 into the property and you want to go through that entire show, actually, I will help you do it. But based on what we originally talked about, that's not the objective you told me that you wanted to achieve when we initially talked. If that's changed, just let me know right now. You see, I simply just change things back and forth. And most of the time we just reiterate why and how we got in contact with that seller. And guys, it's not my agenda. I try to find out what they want to achieve. And that's the key to overcoming objections. Gaining their trust by helping them out, and then listening carefully and solving the seller's problems. And guys, there's more objections to this, but I find that 90% of objections fall within these 6 objections I just went over this live stream. Guys, guys, let me know which one of these objections that you're going to master. And guys, the key to this is practice, 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 and then do tons of repetitions by doing tons of volume, and it will skyrocket your confidence. You'll be quicker on your response and watch your closing ratio go through the roof. Guys, I've been doing this for 23 years. I'm telling you, these 6 objections have been the most helpful for me moving sellers forward to get a great wholesale deal. Let me know in the comments which one you're going to use. And as usual, if you got value from this, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share the truth about wholesaling with someone that needs this video. This is Rick Ginn. I'll see you in the next video.